This is Historical Seasons. Welcome, and in this video, I'll be talking about Edward Lunn. Edward Lunn's uncle suggested that he move to Jamaica after his father's death in 1757 left him with an inheritance. His great-grandfather was one of the soldiers who participated in the English invasion of Jamaica in 1655 to annex it from the Spaniards. He also had some family who owned sugar estates there. During his time in the colony of Jamaica, he worked as a planter, which means a person who would manage plantations. He also worked as a vice admiral to court judge and worked in the House of Assembly. He returned to England in 1769 due to health conditions. Not being satisfied with any historical work done about the island, he then made his most well-known work, which was published in 1774. Which is a 3-volume book series titled The History of Jamaica, where he wrote chapters and discussed the first inhabitants, Spanish colonization, the English invasion, government, economy, slavery, slave revolts, weather, climate, etc. The books are also known to have some racist remarks towards blacks, and he was pro-slavery. In Book 2, Lunn wrote about Francis Williams, who is said to have been a black Jamaican man who had a formal education in England. What I find interesting is that on Edward Lunn's Wikipedia page, it says he included a poem by Francis Williams, which he then proceeds to criticize in an attempt to justify his theory of white racial superiority. But when I read the book, it didn't look like that to me. Well, because in the book, when Edward Lunn begins to cover Francis Williams, he wrote something along the lines of, "Now I'll introduce this person who was a notable figure in Jamaica and attracted the notice of many in England. With the impartiality that becomes of me, I will do him all possible justice and leave it to the reader to decide if his genius and intellect disapproves the arguments that I have before alleged to prove that blacks are to the race of white men." He did include a poem that Francis Williams wrote to George Haldane, who was governor of Jamaica. After including the poem, he wrote something that basically means, "To give this poem a fair judgment, we must forget that the writer was a black person. For if we think it was great just because it came from a black person, we admit to have some racist ideology and see it as only a rare phenomenon." Then he wrote this about the poem: "We must believe it to be what it actually is, a piece highly labored, designed, modeled, and perfected to the utmost stretch of his invention, imagination, and skill." Then he leaves it to the reader to decide if Williams' poem would be comparable to any composition a white person who had a good education would write. He did describe Williams as feeling superior to other blacks around him due to his education, but I didn't see any derogatory comments towards him. He also mentioned that Francis Williams started a school in Spanish Town, Jamaica for blacks after returning from England and some other things. If you wish to read these books, you can download them from Play Store in the book section. It's just the pictures of the pages. The pages are yellowing, the writing is older, but not too old to not understand. Some of the words can be hard to make out, so I recommend copy and pasting the pages to translate them in ChatGPT so it can be easier to read. It's an interesting read if you are into that kind of stuff. Fun fact or not so fun fact, Lunn's brother-in-law, who he worked as a secretary for, was Sir Henry Moore First Baronet, who was governor of Jamaica, then later governor of New York, where he died in office. Edward Lunn lived in England for the rest of his days as an absentee plantation owner until he died in 1813. If you thought this video was engaging, please leave a like. Thanks for watching and making it to the end.